Remember that time when you were really excited about something? Maybe there was an adventure you wanted to go on or an activity you wanted to be a part of, or maybe it was even that multi-level marketing opportunity. It was great products, great opportunity. And when you went to go share it with somebody, they weren't too into it. They're kind of, no, not that interested. Well, it's not necessarily your fault that they weren't interested. They're certainly not the problem. What is the difference is maybe you were motivated differently. In other words, you were presenting the opportunity, you were presenting the activity or the event in a way that motivated you, but did not motivate them. And this is where we come into problems and conflicts a lot of times when it comes to the 16 motivators. See, you have a motivational profile that's unique to you. They have one that's different than yours. Now, for the most part, this is okay because we tend to hang out with people who are similarly motivated. And where there are conflicts, we understand those and we accommodate them. But it's our motivation that causes us to enjoy things, to want to do things, to make decisions and create experiences. When Dr. Reese was interviewing and working through the development of what became known as the Reese Motivational Profile in the 16 motivators, he stumbled across this concept that he calls self-hugging. Self-hugging. He noticed that not only do all of us believe everybody should be like us, but that they are like us. And this is where conflicts come into place. Because let's say I'm high motivated in one area and you're the exactly opposite. You're low motivated in the exact same area. You will do things that I wouldn't do. You'll make decisions that I wouldn't make. Therefore, I look at you and I say there must be something wrong with you. You must be being deceitful or derelict or just plain wrong or evil even, because you're doing things differently than I would do it. Okay? And so this is where the conflicts come in when we start to look at our profile, is because we assume everybody is like us. So now let me tell you about a friend of mine, Randy is his first name. And several years ago, Randy came to me, and because he's my friend, he manages some of my retirement monies. And so you get that yearly sit down, have breakfast together, and we're talking. And so Randy turns to me and he says, Jonathan, you need to work on savings. Last year, you didn't put any money towards savings, and you need to save for the future because you're not getting any younger. You know, every year you're a little bit older, and you haven't put any more money towards retirement. And your parents are getting older, so you might be needing to set aside some funds to take care of them, and on and on. You know, your sister, you got your sister's kids, and so on. And I was like, Randy, stop right there, because I wanted to leave. And I told him, I said, right now I want to leave our breakfast here. And that's when I introduced him to the 16 motivators. Because see, Randy is high savings. That's why he went into the business that he went into. He enjoys setting aside money for the future. He enjoys saving when he goes to buy something. Okay, so savings is a big deal to him. Well, if you remember my profile in previous sections, I'm very low savings. In other words, I like to spend. Right? I've never enjoyed savings. All my regrets in life are things that I didn't spend on. Okay, so savings is not something I'm motivated by. And so that's where a point where we were differently motivated. Randy was trying to change my behavior by motivating me as he's motivated, not by my motivation. He can talk about savings all day long, and that won't motivate me. Okay. So I told Randy about 16 motivators and shared a little bit with him my profile, and he got it like this. So Randy turned to me and he said, okay, he thinks about it a little bit and he goes, imagine this, Jonathan. Imagine, but he calls you on the phone and says, hey, let's run to Spain this weekend and go run with the bulls. And you say, hold on just a second. You go over to your computer and you look up and you go to your fun fund. Okay, that's what he called it, F-U-N. Fun fund. And sure enough, not only can you fly over there this weekend, you can fly first class on Virgin Atlantic. You can stay right there on the square and run with the bulls. turned to me and said, how would that sound to you? I said, that sounds great. He said, how much money can we put in the fund today? I said, let's put $1,000 in. See, by him understanding my profile, he could then change, he could modify the message so that instead of trying to get me to save, which is something that I don't like doing, I have no enjoyment from it, I'm not motivated, he showed me how by changing my behavior, I'd be able to spend in the future and be able to do the types of things that I want to do. See, and so that's the advantage here when it comes to the Reese motivational profile, is understanding ourselves first. Okay, and that's what we're talking about here, is self-hugging. Because what happens is you'll tend to motivate people by what by what motivates you. Right? And if they're different, then it creates conflicts. So that's why we want to start with what motivates you. So I'll walk through this with you, certainly by email, depending on the program you have together that you're working on here today. Either via email, you'll get a nice little profile by your Reese motivational profile. But I'll also point out, like I said, via email or on a phone conversation, we'll talk about where your blind spots likely are. Okay, so if you look down through my profile, if you'll just remember, we talked about social contact. Okay, so that's going to be high, so I'm going to assume that everybody likes to hang out with people, and I won't understand somebody who's low motivated. So that would be a source of a blind spot, for instance. Randy's in my blind spot. Randy's going to be high savings, so he's not going to understand why I'm not, so he's going to try and motivate me against his blind spot. Similarly, I won't understand why somebody wouldn't want to spend. If I give you $1,000, I'm sitting there like, well, why would you save it? That's stupid. You just got $1,000 free and clear. Maybe there's investment opportunity, but what else could we do with it? All right. So, where are your blind spots? We assume everybody is like us, and they're not. And so before we can move forward, we first have to look at where our blind spots are. We want to identify those first, and then think about your team. Okay? When you look at your team, what are the possibilities that they're high motivated in exactly the opposite space that you are, or low motivated, depending on your profile?